United Nations Secretary General Assistant for Humanitarian Affairs visits Yemen. Children in Yemen continue to bear the brunt of the war misery. The joint forces deter Houthi attacks on different fronts in Hodeidah. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English News with me, Shaza Abdelbey. The Secretary General Assistant for Humanitarian Affairs, Joyce Misu, arrived today in Aden. The UN diplomat is expected to discuss the humanitarian situation in 4 Yemeni governorates, including Aden, Sana'a, Hodeidah, and Ma'rib, in a visit that will last for a week. In her meeting with the humanitarian coordination team in Aden, she discussed priorities and challenges, stressing that Yemen remains a top priority for the United Nations. The Human Rights Council adopted a draft resolution to provide technical assistance and capacity building for Yemen in the field of human rights. The Council approved the draft resolution by supporting the National Committee to investigate allegations of human rights without a vote after the delegate of Palestine presented the draft on behalf of the Arab group. The International Organization for Migration said that more than 6 million students are suffering from the collapse of the educational system in Yemen. They noted that it has built 33 schools in 4 governorates and improved the access of more than 28,000 students to education in 2021. The conflict in Yemen has led to thousands of children dying from violence, hunger, or diseases like cholera. This report has more details.
Following the longest period of relative peace since the conflict broke out in Yemen in 2015, Yemen's warring parties failed to extend a UN-led peace agreement. This development threatens to plunge the nation into a new spiral of bloodshed, according to Save the Children. During the 6-month truce, child casualties dropped by 34%, from 254 to 167, with landmines and unexploded ordnances accounting for 2/3 of the casualties. The gains made over the last 6 months, including a significant reduction in civilian and child casualties, a reduction in displacement, and the significant lifting of restrictions on civilian travel and commercial imports, will all be jeopardized unless serious efforts are made to resume a comprehensive dialogue aimed at reaching a peaceful resolution to the conflict, according to the Child Rights Organization. Since March 2015, Yemen's deadly conflict has killed hundreds of thousands of people, crippled infrastructure, and pushed more than 80% of the population below the poverty line. Any escalation of violence would exacerbate an already dire humanitarian situation and may exacerbate human and child rights abuses, which is especially worrying given that there has been no international independent accountability system in existence since October of last year. Yemen's children have already paid the highest price in this conflict, losing some of their most valuable years. Their youth was jeopardized and their future is still unknown. Parties to the war owe Yemeni children a future free of violence and terror, and they must do all in their power to guarantee that what has transpired in recent years does not happen again. It is now time for the opposing sides to take the country ahead on its path to peace and prosperity. They have the ability to ease the pain of millions of tired children, men, and women, thereby bringing this bleak chapter of their lives to a conclusion and allowing hope to triumph.
The joint forces stopped 2 Houthi attacks in Jabal Ras and Hais, south of Hodeidah. Fighters of the 2nd Brigade Az-Zarani confirmed their eagerness in collaboration with the joint forces to win the battle against the Houthis. They vowed to liberate all the areas controlled by the Houthi militia.
The Houthi militia escalated in less than a week, and that's the second escalation after the failure of truce. Houthi militia targeted citizens recently by drones, mortars and heavy bullets in a failed attempt to strike the positions of the joint forces. We are on standby and ready to free the rest of Hodeidah Governorate because weapons are the only way to peace. Houthis continue the violations by lifting the drones over the homes of citizens and hitting them. The drones still target citizens and they attacked our positions yesterday, but thanks God we deterred and defeated them and they ran away.
The Houthi militia bombed a populated village south of Hodeidah. Local sources reported that the Houthi militia bombed the village southeast of Hais with missiles, which resulted in casualties among the people who recently returned to it after years they spent in displacement camps. The sources indicated that the bombing caused panic among the people, especially women and children. The Presidential Leadership Council has affirmed its commitment to ending the Houthi coup. In a meeting to discuss the latest developments after Houthis refused to renew the truce, the council members said that they have done everything possible to make the truce work, but all their efforts were halted by the Houthis. This report has more details.
Since the renewal of the truce failed, military attacks started again, and the temporary peace on Yemeni people has ended, which made the government and the Yemeni Presidential Leadership Council (PLC) consider solutions to permanently end the Houthi coup. PLC is committed to achieving a just, comprehensive and sustainable peace that meets the Yemeni people's aspirations, for restoring state institutions and ending the coup waged by the Houthi militia. Rashad Al-Alimi, chairman of the PLC, in the meeting with the Yemeni leaders, blamed the Houthi for compromising the sustainable benefits that the truce brought about to citizens living under their rule, in exchange for pushing a cruel Iranian agenda. They also condemned the terrorist threats by the Houthi leaders against national institutions, neighboring countries, and international shipping lines. The leaders stressed the state's commitment to defending Yemen as its higher interest and preventing any escalation. Everyone at the meeting said that the diplomatic efforts for UN Special Envoy Hans Grunberg failing to extend the truce was regrettable. They blamed Houthi inflexibility and said that the Iran-backed group insists on shedding more blood and aggravating the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. Al-Alimi denounced the excuses Houthi militia used to withdraw the ceasefire agreement, although they praised the international community's stance regarding the Yemen conflict. The leaders said it wasn't enough to prevent Houthi militias and their supporters. The joint meeting discussed Yemen's political, economic, military, and security developments. PLC leaders agreed to continue holding meetings in Aden's temporary capital to complete reforms from the transitional period. Yemeni presidential leadership is making great efforts to put an end for the bloodshedding and trying hard to bring back the peace on Yemenis after the 8 years suffering. And despite that it might take some time, they are on the right path to find a way out from this humanitarian crisis.
8 citizens were injured when a Houthi drone targeted a civilian vehicle east of Taz. According to local sources, the booby-trapped Houthi drone targeted a civilian while carrying passengers in Maqbana district, which caused injuries among them. Massam Project for Demining announced that it has cleared thousands of mines in government-controlled areas. This report has more details.
Massam Project announced that it has successfully removed thousands of landmines, improvised explosive devices, and various unexploded ordnance in 8 liberated governorates in Yemen. It said a number of Arab studies and research centers in Cairo have recently honored this project by Massam for its humanitarian role in saving the lives of millions of Yemenis. Massam's assistant director said that the Houthi militia plants mines on a daily basis, with little consideration for the lives of civilians, including children, women, and the elderly, who make up the majority of landmine victims in Yemen. He affirmed that the project seeks to develop its capabilities and methods in the field of demining, despite the militia's insistence to develop their methods to target the largest possible number of civilians. He further pointed out that the militia has introduced new technology into the manufacture of these explosives and mines, including new methods and mechanisms to remotely detonate these booby traps. The technical evaluations show that the explosives and booby traps are manufactured and installed inside Yemen, but the materials used in their manufacture are imported and cannot be locally manufactured. He also revealed that Houthis have adopted a brutal approach by professionally planting explosives and booby traps in schools, health centers, and water tanks in large quantities. Landmines have claimed the lives of thousands of Yemenis and injured tens of thousands of people, often with disabling injuries and amputations, putting Yemen as one of the largest mine-laying operations on its territory since the end of World War II.
Coming next in the news. The International Monetary Fund says Yemen's economy will witness a slight growth by the end of this year. Welcome back. The conflict in Yemen has caused the displacement of 4.3 million by September this year. About 40% of them are living in unofficial displacement camps and do not have adequate access to basic services. This report has more details.
After years of displacement, the family of Mohammed Saadan settled in one of the popular areas with other displaced people in Marib. He left Eb Governorate after losing his salary and losing his job, as it became impossible to live there without money to support his family. Every morning, Mohammed goes out to make a source of income for his children by collecting plastic bottles from the streets, a work in which he sees as a source of income, as well as contributing to the cleanliness of the streets of the city that welcomed him, after the militia forced him and thousands others to leave their homes.
I was forced to leave my home in Ib, so I moved here to Ma'rib. I collect plastic bottles to make a living, as I have 4 children and life is not easy.
The difficult life conditions with the displacement all doubled the burden and suffering on him, so he tried hard to feed his 4 children without giving in to the hard and harsh conditions. For 2 years, Saadan has been doing his work non-stop. His absence for 1 day will deprive members of his family, which has become dependent on its money that barely helped feeding them for 1 day.
We are living amid hard conditions. Even the sugar bag costs a lot. And my income is only 3,000 riyal, 2,000 of which is spent on these hardware, and prices keep rising.
The war has left a heavy burden on the lives of the Yemeni people, who were forced by the war circumstances to leave their homes, and today they are paying a heavy bill that they cannot bear anymore.
The Yemeni junior national team won today the final matches in the qualifiers for the Asian Cup finals against Bangladesh. The national team was qualified for the 3rd time for the Asian junior finals after defeating Bangladesh by 4 goals in the match. The first place team in each group is going to qualify for the finals, along with the best 6 second place teams in the 10 groups. The Yemeni Football Association has quit participating in the West Asian Olympic Championship. The source said that the association found it difficult to prepare the team in a month, especially since there are no local competitions. The Undersecretary of Marib discussed with the United Nations team the humanitarian situation in the governorate. In addition, they also discussed the interventions of the UN organizations to alleviate the suffering of those affected by the war. They also mentioned the continuation of the local authority in supporting the humanitarian partnership and providing all facilities to easing the suffering of the displaced. The government intended to allocate a security deposit of $70 million to reduce costs on commercial ships arriving at Yemeni ports. In addition, the Ministry of Transport revealed the efforts made by them in partnership with the Ministries of Planning, Finance, the Central Bank, and the United Nations Development Program. The International Monetary Fund revealed that high global food prices have doubled inflation and exacerbated food insecurity in Yemen. The bank estimated the annual inflation level of food prices in Yemen is at a rate between 45 to 58%. In a recent report, the International Monetary Fund expected that Yemen's economy is going to witness a slight growth by the end of this year. This report has more details.
The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, mission predicted that Yemen's economy will marginally rise by roughly 2% this year and 3.2% in 2023. However, the fund advocated for additional changes, especially with the customs dollar rate, support for the electrical sector, financial transparency, and responsibility in the use of scarce financial resources. The announcement came at the conclusion of an IMF delegation led by Brett Rayner's travel to Jordan, where they met with the Yemeni government authorities from September 27 to October 6. The discussions included current economic developments in Yemen, the outlook and progress on critical reforms. According to Rayner, higher global commodity prices have intensified food poverty and aggravated inflationary pressures. In August, annual inflation was predicted to be approximately 45%, with food inflation at roughly 58%. Yemen has also seen a decrease in wheat import volumes and has been unable to adequately compensate for imports from Russia and Ukraine, which accounted for around 40% of Yemen's wheat. The IMF warned that humanitarian assistance continued to fall short of Yemen's needs, saying, as a result, food insecurity is on the rise, with the UN projecting the number of people in need of humanitarian assistance to reach 23.4 million by the end of 2022, with 19 million people facing acute food insecurity. The IMF, on the other hand, cited some hopeful trends that have opened the path for improved macroeconomic stability. The truce has supported a period of relative peace, including fewer war casualties and increased currency rate stability. Looking ahead, decreased inflation is anticipated near the end of the year as a result of a more stable exchange rate and the recent drop in food prices globally. Although there is a great deal of uncertainty on how the war will develop and the availability of external finance, economic output is anticipated to largely stabilize with modest economic growth of about 2% in 2022 and 3.2% in 2023.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. The United Nations Secretary General Assistant for Humanitarian Affairs visits Yemen. Children in Yemen continue to bear the brunt of the war misery. The joint forces deter Houthi attacks on different fronts in Hodeidah. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.